Nope, not okay. All right. We are good to go. Good morning. Everybody doing well? We did that once already. It's okay. I this morning I am getting started is my hardest part. Y'all know that, right? So I'll get there. I have to stumble around a little bit, and then it just comes out. I'll be all right. This morning, I feel like I'm an encourager. That's what I want to be. I want to encourage you. And I feel like I have a weird thing to talk about today, but it's okay. I feel weird. I don't know. I'll be me. But I just want to talk to you this morning. Is that okay? We'll read some scriptures. I just want to talk to you. I don't know. I feel like Dean happened to me this morning. I don't know. My husband's very much a. This is not conspiracy theory, but my husband's he does that sometimes. You know, he likes to pose weird questions and give you weird answers and make you think about things. And so I feel like Dean came out in me this morning. We've been together long enough that happens, you know. But just thinking about myself, y'all know I have to speak for Angie. I can't speak for anybody else. I have to speak for Angie. So hopefully this speaks to somebody else, and you hear God speaks to you through it. But it's a question I ask myself. So I think this is me, okay? I make things too difficult. I make them too hard. So instead of, I don't think God is hard. I don't think God is difficult. I think I make God hard and I make God difficult. Does that make sense? Okay? So I think God is very simple and very easy. I don't think God wants me to struggle in life. I don't think he wants me to find things difficult or hard, or find having a relationship with him difficult or hard. Having a relationship with God is not difficult or hard, but I think the way that we look at things make it difficult and hard. So I was thinking this morning, or preparing for this morning, and I'm thinking that when I look at things, when we look at our life, I want to set this up right. So when we look at our life, we say one of two things. I'm different from everybody else. Nobody is like me. Nobody goes through things the way that I go through things. Nobody has life the way that I have life. So we make it hard because nobody's like me. Or we say that I'm not special. I'm just like everybody else. There's nothing special about me. There's nothing, why me? Like, why Angie? There's nothing special about Angie. I'm just Angie. I'm no important person. I haven't done anything in my life that stands out, that makes me important or different from anybody else. So you can see it from two different perspectives, right? You can see it as, nobody's like me. You want me to say, I'm sorry. See, now today I'm moving around too much because there's nobody to run cameras. Okay, I'll stand right. I'll just do my normal. I was like, what am I doing wrong? Okay, so, See, I was trying not to be just like Angie is all the time. No, it really wasn't. But anyway. But in God, we are both. Guess what? I am just like everybody else. But do you know what that means? That means that I'm just as special as you are. That God did everything for you, and He did the same thing for me. That I'm not any different from anybody else. So what God has provided for you, He's provided for me. I have everything that you have. There's nothing that you have that God's done for you that He didn't do for me. The healing power that's been manifest in your life is the same healing power that can be manifest in my life. The provision of God that's been manifest in your life is the same provision of God that can be manifest in my life. What He did for you, He did for me. In Romans chapter 8, He said, I did it once for all. For everybody. And we know that that was not just for part of us, that was for our whole man. For me, spirit, soul, and body, Christ did everything for everyone, and He did it one time, and it covered every man. I'm no different. I'm no different. Everything that God has provided for in Himself, He provided for every person. That's an awesome thing. That is... So I am no different from anybody else. And I think we in our mind, we in our brains, separate ourselves and say, God wouldn't do that for me. Or God hasn't provided that for me. Or because I did this, God doesn't. We separate ourselves out. And we try to find a reason. I'm not trying to point fingers or anything else, but what I want, this is what Angie needs to understand. I'm going to point the finger back at myself. That there's no reason in God that I don't manifest everything that He's provided for me. Because I'm no different than you are. You're no different than I am. There's no big I's and little U's. There's no difference between you and I. There's no separation. He didn't see anything special about you that He didn't see about me. And that I need to stop separating myself. I need to stop saying, maybe God doesn't want to do that for me. Or maybe I'm not special enough for God to do that for me. Or maybe I did this so God doesn't want. We need to stop separating ourselves. We need to stop seeing ourselves as different. As that the same thing that He provided for me, He didn't provide for you. You know what? Leah. I'm going to use my children as an example. Leah thinks that I treat her differently than I treat Addison. Leah thinks that I do all these things for Addison that I never did for her. Leah was an only child. If not, Leah got more than Addison gets. But, I'm the oldest, so you make it harder on me. I said, no. See, you're looking at the oldest. So I know what it's like to be the oldest. And what it's like for somebody to say, well, you're older than them. Yeah, I understand that. I feel your pain. Okay? I get it. But you know what? You're 15 and she's 7. I should expect more from you than I do from her. You're 15 and she's 7. I should not expect Addison to do what you do. But guess what? I expected you to do what Addison does, what I expect of Addison when you were 7. It's no different. But it's different now because you're 7 years older than her. Addison will be 8 in January. So they're a little more than 7 years apart. So yeah, I'm going to expect more from you. But I didn't provide for either one of you any different. You both get the same thing. I give you both the same. I've given unto you equally. I would not give to her more than I give to you. And I would not give to you more than I give to her. Actually, Leah does get more than Addison because everything Leah wants is more expensive. Addison's happy with a $5 toy. Leah wants a $50 toy, you know. I mean, it's different. But you're going to, no. If I can love my children the same, if I can provide for them the same, how much better is God than me? How much better is He than I am? I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty sorry parent most of the time. How bad am I screwing my children up? Okay? So, most of the time, but God is so much better than me. He's such a better daddy than I am. Why would we expect Him to be different? Why would we expect Him to pick me over you or you over me? We all need to feel like Daddy does, like we're His favorite. Because guess what we are? We're all His favorite. We are all His favorite. So the other side of the coin is that I'm different. So because I'm different, you know, I have more struggles than you. You know, my life is just so much worse than everybody else's. Well, guess what? You are different. But in a good way. We're not the same. We are all different in God. But guess what? Because we're different, He knows each and every one of us in ourselves. He knows me. He knows Angie. He knows Deborah. He knows you. You, the person that you are. And you're different than me. So guess what? Your life is different than mine. We don't live the same life. You don't live in my house. You don't live with my kids. You don't live with my husband. You're thankful, I'm sure. But guess what? He knows that. He knows me. He knows every hair or every hair that's not there. Hey, every hair that fell out of my head this morning, He knew it was going to fall out. Sometimes I wash my hair, I was like, oh my Lord, what happened? I'm going bald like my daddy. I'll have to find a wig. I'm just picking. But He knows me. He knows me. I am special to Him. I am special to Him. You are important. You are not just like me. Even though He's provided for you exactly the same way He's provided for me, you're not just like me. And guess what? He knows that. You know what? He's not going to talk to you the way He talks to me. You know why? Because Angie's hard-headed and He has to talk to me different so that I understand. You know? He knows the way that Angie needs to hear it. He knows the way you need to hear Him speak to you. But I have to speak to Leah and Addison differently. They don't understand it the same. I'm going to get through to one in a different way than I'm going to get through to the other. They're different. They're not exactly the same. And I need God to speak to me the way Angie is going to understand it. The way that Angie's going to get it. We need to understand that, yes, we are all exactly the same in Him. That there's no big I's and there's no little U's, but guess what? He treats me as me. He sees me as me. I am special. I am very special. You are very special to Him. We need to see and understand that. We need to see that we are very special to Him. That we are all big I's. Every single one of us. To the point that to me, this is where I am this morning, is that we need to see both sides of the coin. I see my children and the life that they live in this world. And I want them to see that they're very special, that they're very unique, that there's nobody like them. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. That is a good thing, not a bad thing. You are very unique and very special in God, and you need to see yourself that way. But you also need to see that God provided for you exactly the same as He provided for everyone else. That there is no difference between you and I in the provision of God in our lives. That there is no reason why, there's no reason in God for you not to live out the life that He's given you to live. There's no reason in Him for you not to walk in the path that He set before you. Not to live out the life that He's given you to live. Not to live in the fullness of Him. There's no reason. There's nothing stopping you except for this right here. Except for your understanding of who you are in Him. Except for your understanding of, I am no different. I have the ability. I have the opportunity. I have everything I need because of the Christ that dwells in me to be who He desires for me to be. For weeks now, to me, this is where I am. That I need to see who I am in Him to the point that I'm not limiting the God that's within me. That I am not making a difference because of who I am. That I am not seeing, well, God did it for them, but He won't do it for me. Or I didn't see a manifestation in them, so if I didn't see a manifestation the way I thought I should see a manifestation in them, the way I want to see it in me, why would God do that for me? Have you ever done that? Well, God didn't do it for them, so why would God do it for me? You don't know, you didn't live in that body. You didn't live in that person. You don't know where they were. You have no clue. Don't compare yourself to somebody else. Don't compare your manifestation to somebody else's manifestation. Don't limit yourself. I need to not limit myself. Because I do. I do, very much so. Not because, you know what, not when I'm looking at the Christ that dwells on the inside of me. But when I allow myself to go here and view things from a different perspective. Not from the perspective of the Christ that dwells on the inside of me. I believe that there is so much more. So much more. I believe the life that God has given us to live is so much greater. That the influence that He desires for me to have is so much bigger. That the life that He desires for me to live is so much bigger. It's beyond what Angie could do. It's beyond what I think in my little pea brain. It's bigger than that. God has shown me every single day, Angie, I'm bigger than that. Angie, I'm more than that. What you can think or imagine, I'm bigger than that imagination. Leah has a huge imagination. She gets it from her daddy. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Why? Because you dream. Because she thinks big. Leah doesn't limit herself in a lot of things. Why? Because she's got a good imagination. Because she sees it could be bigger. It could be better. Hey, look what I can do. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Don't limit yourself. Don't put constraints upon yourself because you're looking at someone else. See that you're special. See that you are who God created you to be. See that life is bigger than what you could think or imagine. See that things are more awesome. You know what God did? He said He did it once and He did it for all. I've said for a long time that out of the whole entire universe, if there was just me, what Christ did would have been no different. Because He loves me that much. And that's awesome. That He would have done it just for me. If there had just been Angie, He would have done it just for me. So that I could have a relationship with Him. So that I could know who I was created to be. So that I could grow in Him and learn in Him and be the person that He created me to be. But He didn't just do it for me. He did it for everyone. And there are so many people who don't see. So many people who don't know. So many people who are out there just wandering. Not understanding and not knowing that they are greater. That they are bigger. That they're more. That they're capable of so much more. Because of the Christ that dwells on the inside of them. I'm going to read 2 scriptures and then I'm done. Acts chapter 10 and verse 34 says, Peter fairly exploded with his good news. So for some reason the monitors have just popped on. Says Peter fairly exploded with his good news. It's God's own truth. Nothing could be plainer. God plays no favorites. I don't want it to squeal and bust everybody's ears. It makes no difference who you are or where you're from. If you want God and you're ready to do as He says, the door's open. God plays no favorites. There's no difference from one to the other. I've always, it's there. But we have to be open to it. God's not going to force us. God's not going to make us. We got to be ready. We got to be open and we got to be willing. We got to know that my good daddy only has good things for me. He only has good things for me. I want to go, I think, let me make sure I'm going to the right place. Luke chapter 12 and verse 6, it says, what's the price of 2 or 3 canaries? Some loose change, right? But God never overlooks a single one, and He pays even greater attention to you, down to the last detail, even the numbering of the hairs on your head. So don't you be intimidated by all this that's going on. You know why? Because if God would pay attention to something that's most people would say is worthless, most people would say is worth nothing, worth very little. But He knows you. Right down to the number of hairs that are on your head today. Not what was there yesterday, but what's there today. He knows me today. He knows me today. He hasn't left. He hasn't gone anywhere. He's right there. For me, I can only speak for me. But for me, I'm at the point where I need to see how special I am. I need to see how important I am. But I also need to see that, guess what? He's not playing any favorites, and he didn't give me half of what he gave you. He didn't give me a different portion. I have the same amount of God as anybody else. There's the same amount of God in me that's in you. We all got the same portion. We all got all of Him. We all got all of God. We didn't get just a little bit. We got all of Him. We got every bit of God in me. And He made me special, and He made me different. And He knows exactly who I am and exactly where I am and exactly what's going on in me, in my life today. He knows where I need Him. He knows what I need. And guess what? What I need today is not what you need today. It's not the same. But the same amount of God is in you to perform what you need that's in me to perform what I need. I need to see that. I need to understand that. And it needs to not just be in here, but it needs to get in here. It needs to be so much of me that it affects the way that I think. To the point that it keeps coming, that I am arrogant about the God that's on the inside of me. That I am very, very bold about it. That there's nothing that can stop the God that's on the inside of me. There's nothing that can stop Him from performing what I need manifest in this life that I'm living today. There's nothing that can change that. There's nothing that can stop that. Why? Because all of God dwells on the inside of me. Every bit of Him. Everything that I need in every day of my life, whether it's the same today or tomorrow, if it's different tomorrow than today, He can perform what I need tomorrow because all of God dwells on the inside of me. And that there's no limitation to that. There's nothing stopping that. See that all of God, every bit of what you need, every bit of who He is dwells on the inside of you. And you are. You are very special. But you are very special in His eyes to the point that there is nothing He wouldn't do for you. There's no mountain He wouldn't move. There's nothing He wouldn't give. There's nothing He wouldn't perform in your life to make this life that you now live the life that He desires for you to live. Thank you.